I know Serge Ekué and also Sérgio Suchodolski. Are you guys with me? Yes.
Positive, we're here. Positive, we're here. Both
Ve-
of us.
Very good.
We're
So,
here.
thank you very much.
Salute from Brasilia.
You have the privilege to have two Serge for the price of one. So in the same session.
That's
You
what
are
I was.
fortunate.
That's what I was saying to my team. It's not easy to have two people with the same name in different language together. So it's my privilege.
You are fortunate. Yeah.
Sérgio, where are you now?
I'm
Sérgio.
in Brasilia. I'm at the headquarters of the Brazilian Development Association.
So
Such a pleasure to join you today.
Sérgio, he's in Brazil. And Serge, where are you now?
I'm currently in Lomé, West Africa, Togo, and I'm very happy to be with you today. And thanks for having me.
Very good. So next time when we talk, maybe you can take a flight straight from Lomé to Fortaleza. It will take only 3 hours, 3 hours and a half. So maybe in the future we can have this connectivity, flight connectivity between West Africa and Brazil.
Absolutely.
So I'll start with you, Serge. We have now a moment, a critical moment, when infrastructure and development is in the agenda, or should be in the agenda. And we need to have FDI as well included in the conversation. I would like to hear from you, from your perspective as the head of the Development Bank of West Africa. How do you see the possibility to engage, bringing the participation of the private sector in the investment activities in West Africa, but also in Brazil?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the question. And again, thank you for having me with you today. Well, if we look at the situation, the needs again of infrastructure, the needs are impressive. We believe that there's a financing gap, the need of financing gap of around $100 billion per year in a region. So I can only speak for the region under my remit here. Where we have a growing population of 3% per year, which literally means that the population of our region will double. When your region will double in a generation time, which means in 25 years. So today the region is 150 inhabitants. So we believe that in 20 years this population will double, which makes 300 people. Inhabitants in 25 years, which is basically the population of the US, you see, with a median age of 20 years. So it's a very young population. So you can reckon the needs in terms of infrastructure are impressive, they are very high. So what we have decided at the West African Development is to tackle the problem, to tackle the issue and to face it. That's what we said in our recently approved Joliba plan, strategic plan for 2025. We have the ambitions to build or reshuffle 13,000 kilometers. And if you look at Joe Biden's ambition in the same sectors, it is approximately about the same number. We have the ambitions to have additional 380 megawatt additional energy for the region. We also believe that we need to develop 12,000 hectares or even 170,000 additional tons of rice produced per year. This is for agriculture. So the needs in terms of infrastructure, when it comes to how we commute from point A to point B, which are roads, aviation, digital, communication, etc. As you can see, the needs are very high. Same for energy, same for agriculture, same for real estate and social housing, and same story, but that would not come to a surprise to you for everything related to health and education.
Very good. Thanks, Serge. Now, Serge, I come to you. I know you are using now two hats, right? One is the president of the Banco of Minas Gerais, but also you are leading the Association of Financial Institutions in Brazil, which is very important. Now I would like to address this straight to you. How do you see the role of the financial institutions to leverage possibilities of projects, of infrastructure? Could be water, could be agriculture, could be roads, could be sanitation, as Serge said. So I know you are involved for a long time in this conversation of financing projects in Brazil, but also discussing with Africa. So I'd like to hear from you, how do you think this could be potentially implemented?
Thank you, Professor Monti. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to join you and Serge in this very important occasion. Once again, celebrating the Brazil-Africa Forum in the year of 2021. As you know, this is my third incarnation in the development finance world. And in all of the previous jobs at the New Development Bank, at the Brazilian Development Bank, we had many interactions financing projects in Africa, opening offices in Africa, and fostering the collaboration between South-South countries and between Brazil and African countries in many ways. Our countries on the two sides of the Atlantic, they resemble very much in terms of the terrain, in terms of the challenges, and most importantly, they resemble in terms of the solutions. We in Brazil have a very robust system of development finance institutions. ABDE now represents 32 different development finance institutions, development agencies, development banks, credit cooperatives, and therefore we have the capillarity to mobilize resources for sustainable infrastructure. The great challenge of our times, and I just came back from Glasgow in Scotland, where I attended COP26, is definitely keeping the warming of the country below 1.5 degrees. Otherwise, we already are seeing some major disruption and tragic events in Africa, in Madagascar. We are already seeing that in other regions of the world, in island countries. We see the climate change doing very, very important damage. And therefore, we need to finance projects, sustainable infrastructure that can be helpful to mitigate and adapt to those changes and also keep the warming of the country in the thresholds that have been defined by the international agreements. We need to finance a new world. This new world needs to have technology that is embedded, and I talk about not only general technology in terms of internet, in terms of IT, but also in engineering, in agriculture, in infrastructure in general, in urban planning. This is the challenge of our generation. And in Brazil, we want to partner with our brothers and sisters from Africa, with the African institutions, to mobilize, to share knowledge and best practices in order to achieve these ambitious goals. We have already taken action, as you have mentioned. BDMG has celebrated a very important MOU last year, together with our good friend, Patrick Dlamina, the CEO of the DBSA, the Development Bank of Southern Africa. We've been sharing our expertise with our digital platform for SMEs with DBSA. We should continue to share our experiences and learn from African banks and development banks in terms of what they are doing. I think this is a great way to build a concrete exchange between the two sides of the Atlantic. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
All right, Serge, maybe at the end of this panel, Sérgio will have an opportunity to engage with another institution in Africa. Why not? But let me come to you, Serge, with something very specific. You are located in one important part of Africa, which is very close, not geographically with Brazil, but the roots, the historical roots that we have with Africa, Brazil has with Africa. how can we use this in our favor? How can we put together Brazil and Africa using in our favor the historical, the ancestrality that Brazil has with Africa? But besides this, we need to have the engagement of the private sector. How can we bring Brazilians to invest in Africa, bringing to the Brazilian investor the possibility to grow as they can do in Brazil?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Monte. Actually, Sergio is right. I think, yeah, there are a number of things that we can share, and from an historical standpoint, there are a number of things that we have in common. Now, when it comes to the links between Brazil and West Africa, I think that there are similarities. Brazil is large as a continent, has huge is a continent of infrastructure, and is a continent of agriculture. So these are the two main sectors where we believe that there are things in common to share. That is obvious. Now, what with the key success factors we have, we believe here to bring on the table are the following. The first one is the availability of technical, economical, or environmental studies. I think and in this space there are a number of building capacities we can share. I think that Brazil is ahead of the curve, and there are a number of things we can share from the private sector to Brazilian private sector to West Africa. The second thing is, again, competent project management unit, which is again but it links again to the question of building capacity. I can also mention the selection of companies for the realization of the works via public tenders. And last but surely not the least, the use of consulting firms to control and monitor the work. The good thing here is that when it comes to infrastructure and agriculture, and starting with infrastructure, the PPP format is one of the most important. It's something that we need. Why? We are very close to the sovereign here. We are, I would even say, into the intimacy of the sovereign. We speak to our shareholders, which are, by the way, shareholders and clients at the same time, which is a very specific situation for us. So we know from an institutional standpoint, we know from a sovereign standpoint, what are the needs of the different states, what are the needs of the different governments. And we do contribute to the financing, to the funding of their national program, development program, be it in Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Niger, Burkina Faso, you name it. So we know that, all right? So we will work on the framework, on the infrastructure. But again, who would execute? The private sector would execute. So we can intervene in the construction phase. And then when it comes to the concessional phase is naturally dedicated, devoted, I would say, to the private sectors. So yes, we are open to this discussion. And again, the PPP format for us appears to be the best one, the most suitable one.
Very good. Thanks, Serge. Sérgio, I heard from you just a few minutes ago that you've been at COP26. It was a very important discussion that you had there with your colleagues representing other institutions, financial institutions. You mentioned something special about natural resources and the environmental, right? So how can we respect the environment, and how can we bring the attention of the private sector as well to promote the protection of the environment, but at the same time bringing investment to countries? We have countries such as Nigeria, Togo, Brazil, Kenya, Burkina Faso, countries that has many opportunities of bringing natural resources to the discussion. How can you transform natural resources into products, not only raw materials, but into products to bring benefits to the countries, but also to the society?
Thank you, Professor. I think there are many ways in which development banks and our societies, our governments can contribute to that effort and to achieve those goals. First and foremost, development banks can, of course, provide climate finance. That means credit lines that have that objective, that have specific use of proceeds to promote projects that respect, that preserve, that create value out of nature in a sustainable manner. But we should also work as knowledge institutions in terms of disseminating best practices with our clients, hosting workshops, hosting experts in order to disseminate some of these new achievements from science. As Serge rightly mentioned, we are also project preparation platforms. As a matter of fact, many of the institutions that are members of the Brazilian Development Association, including the one that I had, BDMG, the Development Bank of Minas Gerais, we have a team that is dedicated to project preparation. There is a niche where we don't operate as credit or equity investors, but we model projects, infrastructure projects in water and sewage. We have modeled and delivered state parks, energy efficiency and public lighting, roads, and other infrastructure where a private operator, a private investor will come, invest, and develop and operate those assets in the long term, but with a model that follows the public interest and the public policy, and that can be delivered through our technicians. I think this is a very efficient way in which we can galvanize and mobilize the private sector in a model that is designed and that is sustainable by experts that our good banks are able to host. I believe that the great difference between COP26 and COP25 is that we heard a lot about action, 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 and finance. A great presence of asset managers, commercial banks, development banks, both multilateral, regional, national, subnational ones, very engaged in mobilizing at speed those kinds of programs, those kinds of best practices. We need to learn. We need to disseminate some of these solutions that are already there. Some of them have been developed in Africa. Some of them have been developed in Asia, in Latin America, in the North Atlantic. We need to disseminate those technologies, those best practices as fast as we can, collaborating amongst us.
Very good. Sérgio, you mentioned long term. I will keep this. So we are just about to close our conversation, but I want to give you, both of you, 2 minutes to summarize, but to give a message, a straight message for the people that are listening to us in many parts of the world. So if you have the recipe in 2 minutes, Serge, how can you address the way to bring the attention to the world to invest in infrastructure in Africa and Brazil?
Well, in a nutshell, Professor, in a nutshell, the region is a fast-growing region, fast-growing. Prior to the pandemic, the region used to grow by an average of 6% CAGR per year for the past 3-4 years. Last year, 2020, at the end of the year, the region grew by slightly less than 1%, which is still positive. And this year, we will regain with the slope of the curve we used to face prior to the crisis. A young population and a strong governance at the BOAD level, which means that we are again into the intimacy of our clients, of our shareholders. We are currently roadshowing to double, and read my lips, doubling our shareholder capital, bringing it to $3 billion US, which means that during the 4 or 5 coming years, we would invest not less than $5 billion. So it means that there is a commitment here because there is a market here. And we believe that BOAD is the right institution because we are interconnecting investors and issuers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Serge. It was very precise and direct. Sérgio, I'll come to you, but before I give the floor to you, I'd like to thank you and to say my appreciation for the support and the sponsorship of BDE and the Bank of Minas Gerais to the Brazil-Africa Forum 2021. So in 2 minutes, if you have the recipe, and I know you have many recipes because of your background in many international organizations, such the ones that you mentioned. So 2 minutes to give us the answer. How can we attract the attention of the world to Africa and to Brazil to invest and to develop infrastructure?
Thank you, Professor. It's an honor to support this event, to partake in this activity. Once again, I believe that there is a strategic, there is a historical, there is a cultural, and an economic motivation for Brazil, Latin America in general, to extend the bridge and build partnerships with our Africans, brothers and sisters and institutions. I think we should specifically pay attention to the strategic position of the development finance institution as key stakeholders for the implementation and the execution of development policies towards a greener and more sustainable economy. As I said before, we are taking action, very concrete actions in planning ahead our future. At the Brazilian Development Association, we are just about to finalize a very important document, the 2030 Sustainable Development Plan, which will be presented to the presidential candidates of Brazil in about 3 months' time during the Development Association Forum, which will bring together our 32 members, but also international friends. And I take this opportunity to invite Serge, Ekué, and the Development Bank of West Africa to join us for this event and to have a speaking role. We have launched during COP26 the Financing Alliance for the Amazon, involving the Inter-American Development Bank, which has disclosed the creation of a $600 million fund to promote sustainable development projects in the region and to work together with the more than 10 development finance institutions that are members of our association who are there and who can serve as last mile banks doing own lending programs and other kinds of solutions and collaborations. So I believe these concrete actions create other movements. We meet new people and new actors, and I think we should be committed to advance, steady and fast and open-minded to create solutions for our time. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much as well, Sérgio, for your time. Serge, once again, it was a pleasure to have you once again with us, Sérgio. Please consider the partnership of the Brazil-Africa Institute, even with for this event that you are organizing next year. Once again, thank you, my friends. See you soon.
Thank you, Professor. Sergio, thank you so much. We keep in touch, all right?
Thank you. Merci, Serge. À bientôt.
Merci, à bientôt. Au revoir. Merci beaucoup. Bye now.
Merci à tous.